Test, test, test. Let's see.
Test, test, test.
All right, that works. That works. For anyone who's watching, I know this is kind of late, but we are making an attempt at this. I have two different lapel mics, as you can see, and it seems like, hello, we already have a comment here on YouTube. Seems like the sound is actually working, which is awesome. So this is going to be kind of a lazy late night signing session, and the reason it is late is because there's an awful lot going on with the release of To Sleep in the Sea of Stars, and along with writing and promoting and doing everything else that needs doing, I also need to be signing these tip-in sheets. So I actually, and I'll talk about this more later, I have a event tomorrow morning. I'm going to be doing a panel event with Adrian Tchaikovsky, and I'm blanking on the other participant on the panel. I'll have to look that up in a little bit. Which is not good. So let me bring that up because I don't want to forget anyone's names. Let's see. What is the panel tomorrow? The panel is, I'm going to bring this up here. Rebecca Ross, that's it. And I'm very much looking forward to a conversation with her and Adrian Tchaikovsky. Let's see, are we having a technical problem with the sound on Facebook? Disconnect it and start again. Fun and games, folks, with video. Apparently the Facebook video is sideways at the moment. All right, I'm going to answer a couple questions here off this YouTube stream. And glad that the mics sound good. Audio so much better, awesome. Just deleted. Okay, this is enabling you to be awake way too late. Ha! Yeah, I know. Well, the cool thing about the internet is we can all keep each other company, right? How did you guys like the trailer for To Sleep? I thought that was pretty cool. Came out today. We've been working on that for a while. We actually have a couple of other cool videos that we're going to be able to share with you in the near future. You know what? If it's still sideways, try turning the camera around the other direction. All right, let's see another question here. Oh, this is not actually the new hardcover of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. This is a dummy cover that got printed out. This is not even the final cover. The final cover of To Sleep is going to have like metallic blue foil on it, which is really cool. And actually the book inside of this, if I remember correctly, this is actually Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows inside of this. It was the only thing I had that was roughly the right thickness for the cover. Although I think To Sleep is definitely a little bit thicker on that. You love my voiceover in the trailer. Thank you. That wasn't actually my voice, though. That was a professional voice artist. Voice actor, I should say. Good day from Australia. Glad you enjoyed the series. I always enjoyed my visit to Australia on the book tour for Inheritance. I got to climb the bridge in Sydney, and I got to visit Melbourne and Tasmania. Hobart specifically, and Perth, which was a lot of fun. So let's see. Someone says, everyone remember to like this video to increase the number of people who see it. Yes, that would be very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. We're going to be doing more of these in the future. They're something I've wanted to do for a while, but figuring out the technology just took some time and effort. So I'm not sure if we're getting the Facebook stream today, but we will have that next time. Has COVID affected any of my writing ideas? No, all of my writing ideas at the moment are ones I've had for a little while, so I'm working my way through those. That's not to say that current events haven't given me some ideas, as I'm sure it has all of you. Greetings from Ecuador. Wow. Well, thank you for reading the books. Do I think Fractalverse will get a tabletop RPG? Funny you should mention that. It's definitely something that I'm interested in, and if I have any news on that front, I will share it with you. Someone's watching this in the middle of their online classes in India, which is awfully fun. So I can actually do the signing without looking at the pages. This is a trick I learned during book tour. So you look someone in the eye, you answer a couple questions, you sign the pages, glance down, and you're done. Gets a little trickier when you're signing someone's names. The best thing are authors who are left-handed, because then they can sign with their left hand and they can shake hands with their right. As I recall, Bill Clinton actually uses that technique, so it's the ultimate schmoozing author technique. At one point, I even tried to teach myself how to sign simultaneously with both hands so that I could do left and right, but I just didn't have the time to master that, sort of the muscle control. So maybe in the future, but it would be fun to sort of double my signing speed, make all of this quite a bit faster. Awesome to hear that I have a lot of fans in India. I actually love Bollywood films, and films from all over Hollywood, I should say. I've actually, it's not actually Bollywood, but I've gotten into arguments with friends over Bahubali 1 and 2, because I contend that they're more epic than just about anything Marvel has done. Okay. How did I come up with the names, words, and phrases in the inheritance cycle? Well, those are kind of different things. For the names themselves, I based the names partly off of historical sources. So like, you know, Old Norse names, Germanic names, some Russian names, that sort of thing. And then a number of the names were also invented according to the rules of my various imaginary languages. The rest of the names were basically puns or wordplay. So Saphira is a play on sapphire. Aragon, as most of you will know, is the word dragon, with the first letter changed from D to E. And of course, it means an era gone by, an Aragon, which seemed appropriate for the story. Let's see. And then, of course, for the languages, you know, there are a lot of ways to invent languages, and I love doing that, but I'm no linguist, so consider me an enthusiastic amateur on that front. But there are a lot of great resources on inventing languages on the internet. You just Google conlangs, that's short for constructed languages, and you can find a ton of resources. The short and dirty version is to come up with a couple of words that you like the sound of, and then use those to guide what vowels you want in your language, what consonant clusters, and then you can dive into the really difficult part, which is the grammar, and build up a vocabulary, basic vocabulary, and hey presto, you have your language. The difficult part of inventing a language, though, is A, you need a decent background in linguistics to pull it off, and then B, if you really think about it, every word has a history, and those histories can be incredibly complicated, and they can tell you an awful lot about the history of the world that that word is from, and the cultural views of the people involved who speak that language, and so forth and so on. So once you really start digging into every single word like that, you end up in the position Tolkien was, where you have to create an entire world, an entire history to make your language. Oh, my cat Chiara has wandered in. I don't know if she's going to come visit me here. One of my favorite examples of this sort of history of words is actually the word groggy. So, you know, we use the word nowadays to say, hey, I'm sleepy, I'm tired, I'm groggy, right? Well, that actually comes from English, a British admiral, and I'm probably going to butcher this history slightly, so apologies for this. I'm doing this late at night with no reference. But as I recall, this admiral was known for wearing a certain coat, and it was made of a material that had sort of the word grog as part of the name of the material. It was like grogmar or something like that. And so the admiral became known as Old Grog. And coincidentally enough, he also was known for giving his sailors a measure of, it wasn't rum, it's the stuff it was watered rum, I think. And the sailors started calling that their daily grog, you know, their measure of their daily grog. And what happens if you drink too much grog? You get groggy. So we have this word that basically means to be sleepy or a bit out of it, which all comes about because some admiral back in the day was wearing a certain type of coat. And I'm going to attempt to pick up my cat here because she has, come on, Chiara. Ah! Oh, there we go. Oh, aren't you cute? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So she's going to keep me company here for a second. Well, say hello to the internet, Chiara. You're famous. Apologies, everyone, if she turns her backside to you. If you know cats, you know that's what they like to do. So I'm going to keep signing here. And that's enough attention for her. Cats, as I said, are like the best pets for writers because they'll hop on your lap, they'll demand a little attention, they'll give you some company, and then after about 5 minutes, they will run away. Whereas dogs will happily let you pet them all day long, and of course, they want to go for walks, and they're just attention hogs. And don't get me wrong, I love dogs, but cats are a little better for writing. Wow, so many questions here. Hey, hi from Sri Lanka. Very cool. Aragon is a Bollywood hero. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Someone asks, how do you successfully self-publish? Well, I've got some good news for you. Self-publishing is easier than it has ever been before. Between Amazon and ebooks in general, and of course print on demand, it is so easy to get self-published. Now, the downside of that is that more people than ever before are actually getting self-publishing. So it's hard to stand out from the crowd, but there's a market there, and people who do it successfully are making good money. There are a lot of people who have self-published and met with a lot of success. I had that experience myself. I mean, The Martian is a semi-recent example. And I know there are a number of people on Amazon who are publishing ebooks very fast, you know, sometimes a couple of them every month or so, and making a lot of money doing that. So my advice, though, is if you are going to self-publish, really invest in hiring an editor to make your work as professional as possible, and then making your cover and your formatting look as good as possible. That's one of the things that a publisher tends to really help with is presentation, polish, fit and finish, all of that. So putting some effort there to make sure that your book doesn't look like a self-published book is going to serve you in good stead. But ultimately, what matters is whether or not you've written a story that people want to read. You know, it's almost like films and television where, yes, it's nice if a movie looks pretty, but audiences will put up with a gritty, grainy image if they actually like the story. Just like with video games also, you know. There are games which don't have the greatest graphics these days, and I'll still go back and play them because, you know, I enjoy the game. It gives me something that I'm not going to get with a game that's perhaps a heck of a lot more polished and modern. Let's see. Can I look for some more questions here? Uh, ba, 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 ba. Someone just said they just read the first Earthsea book by Ursula K. Le Guin, and you're about to start the second one, which is The Tombs of Atuan. How much do these books and Le Guin influence me? Ursula Le Guin was a huge and is a huge influence on my writing. I love how poetic she is. I love how well thought out she is. You know, she thought deeply about the subject she was writing, and then she wrote stories as a way to explore those ideas and as a reaction to the genres that she was writing in, you know, to what the other things that people were publishing at those times. You know, A Wizard of Earthsea is really impressive to me because it's a complete hero story from start to finish, and it's in such a small book, but it feels as large and as epic as Dune or any of these big stories. Now, the second book, Tombs of Atuan, is very different. But it is equally as impressive, I think. And then the third one, The Farthest Shore, it returns to some of the more familiar elements from the first book, but it's a very deep exploration of mortality and, you know, basically grappling with death and what it means to die. And I don't want to scare anyone from the book because it's not a depressing book in the slightest. It's just beautiful and poetic. And if you're looking for anything else to read from Ursula Le Guin, I would recommend, excuse me 1 second here. I'm going to get a little swig of water. I'd recommend a book called The Beginning Place. Now, it's not going to be to everyone's taste, but the book was originally serialized in some magazine back in the day. But it's a really interesting examination and deconstruction of, again, your traditional coming-of-age story. And I think the thing I like best about it is that it captures that twilight feel. You know, if you've ever been in a forest and walk under the trees and everything's sort of half in light and half in dusk, or that time in the evening where you get that same feeling, that The Beginning Place captures that really well. It's a book about the spaces in between. Right. Let's see. Yeah, grog is water and rum. That's correct. Am I ever going to finish Aragon and Arya's adventure? Yes, I very much plan on returning to Alagasia and writing a lot more in the world of Aragon. First things first, though, is I have to finish revising the prequel novel to Sleep, which I'm over 60 pages into at the moment. And, of course, I have to actually launch To Sleep and do all the promotion required to give it the attention that it needs. What was my backup plan if I couldn't make my living as a writer? And then someone else is saying I should give you a master class in writing. Well, if I get enough of these signings, I'm going to have to find stuff to talk about. So talking about writing is one of my favorite things to do and is part of my motivation for doing these things. My backup plan, if the writing didn't work, was go to college because that was what I was on course for doing when Aragon was about to come out. In fact, I was accepted to Reed College in Portland, Oregon, and they offered nearly a full scholarship, and I was going to go. I even had the orientation papers on my desk, but I'd already put a couple of years of work into Aragon, and I couldn't just abandon the book. I needed to see what would happen if I published it. And in fact, I knew I was making the right choice when I talked the admissions officer into buying a copy of Aragon when I got a deferral. In fact, I got 2 deferrals. But my backup plan was to go to college and study either history or science, probably some mixture of both. I'm fascinated by physics, and anyone who reads To Sleep will not be surprised by that. By the way, I have to refill my pen here. As you can see, I've emptied this whole thing of ink, so I'm going to use my syringe here and my bottle of ink and get this all filled up. So that was my backup plan, was just, you know, get an education and get a more traditional job. And I have no idea how my life would have played out if I would have done that. I do know I would have needed to find some way to keep creating, because I love to create, I love to draw, I love to make things, and I love to solve problems. So whatever I was doing, that's probably what I would have pursued as a career. Okay. Let's see. Will To Sleep in a Sea of Stars be translated in Portuguese? I hope so. I don't have any news on that front at the moment, but as soon as I do, I will let you know. Someone says I was one of their biggest inspirations, and they're wishing me a good night. Well, good night to you as well. I was very, very excited about Jennifer Hale reading the audiobook. I've heard a fair bit of her performance in the book, and I think it really does the character of Chiara justice, as well as the world and the universe there. Let's see. My favorite book in the inheritance cycle. Well, if I go chronologically, I would say Aragon, because it was the first book I ever read, ever wrote. That would be quite some trick if it were the first one I ever read. And because of that, it'll always have a special place in my heart. But if we go by quality, I would probably pick, well, if we go by weight, sheer weight, it would definitely be Inheritance. But if I go by quality, I'd have to say none of the above. It would be To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. And even then, maybe not that, because it's what I'm currently working on. You know, whatever I'm working on is what I believe is my best work. It may not be true, but I'm always trying to push myself forward with my craft and with the stories I'm trying to tell. How do you get a signed copy of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars? Well, if you go to the tweet pinned on my profile, or if you go to my website, paolini.net, or even if you come back to this live stream once it's been posted up and finished off, you can find the pre-order links, and a couple of those pre-order links are for signed copies. And I have signed, well over 15,000 books at the moment, so there are 15,000 signed copies out there that you can get. And I'm going to be doing a virtual book tour in September for the release of the book on September 15th. You can also find the news and information for that tour on my website. And for each event that I'm doing on the tour, the first 100 people who sign up to the event will get a signed book. So you have to register for each event, and the first 100 people get that signed book. Let's see. What about To Sleep in a Sea of Stars differentiates it from other first contact novels? Great question. I think I was actually surprised when my publisher, Tor, started talking about the book as a first contact novel. And not just Tor, but also reviewers and readers. Because when I wrote this, I was not thinking of it as a first contact novel. It is a first contact novel, and that is, of course, the subject of the story in a large part, but it's not really the focus of the story. The focus of the story is Kira's emotional journey. So I would say what differentiates this is the fact that I wrote this story, and then also the way the first contact plays out is hopefully a little bit different than you've read in other stories. And the aliens themselves in the story are biologically quite different, although I did want to have tentacles in the story, because you can't have aliens without tentacles. At least that's what I told myself for this story. Great questions here. How did I approach focusing so heavily on a female character? Was it different? I think that's the question. Not really. I mean, writing any character, male or female, is an exercise in imagination. You know, there are male characters, and just men in general, that I can think of who would be far more different from me than Kira is. Whether male or female, when you write a character, you have to just try to put yourself in the mind of that person. You know, you might fail, but that's at least the goal. So I have written female characters before from their point of view in the Inheritance Cycle and also in The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm. So it wasn't a completely new experience for me. And my main approach was simply to treat Chiara as any other character that I would try to write, and just, respect her and try to do justice by her. There are certainly differences between men and women. No one will deny that. But I was trying to set out to write Chiara and not some stereotype of differences between men and women. Hopefully that answers your question. Ultimately, you'll have to decide for yourself whether or not I was successful when you read the book. Let's see. What did I enjoy writing most, fantasy or science fiction? Great question. I enjoyed them both equally for different reasons. Ultimately, I enjoy writing stories, and I thought both of these stories were worth writing or were good, so that explains a lot of the appeal for me. But fantasy, epic fantasy has a certain feel to it that I love. There are the forests, there are the elves, there's the magic, there's the heroism, there's the grand adventure. And science fiction, although more of a technologically driven genre, has a lot of that too. There's still adventure. There's the whole scope of the universe to play with. And there's a real sense of awe and wonder of getting to go out and explore that. If anything, I kind of liked science fiction maybe a hair more, just because it does connect to the real world in a way that fantasy doesn't sometimes. But they do different things, and they're both wonderful. And my next book will probably be fantasy. Probably be fantasy. For me, I think if I sort of step back, fantasy tends to tie a little bit more directly into my emotions. And that might be just how I imagine the genre and also the books I grew up reading. And then science fiction perhaps ties a little bit more into my sense of adventure, aspiration, where I hope we're going to go as a species and where I would love to go. If it were possible to go out and explore the solar system, I'd be doing that right now. If it were possible to go emigrate to Mars or somewhere else in the solar system, I would do that. Or I would encourage my children to do that if I had children. I think that, my ancestors, in fact, in a very, very relatively recent past, came to the United States, uprooted their lives, made a huge effort to get here. And humans have been doing that for all of our history of seeking out greener pastures, new lands. And I actually think that it's an important thing for us to have as a species, and we don't have it, and which is the frontier. It used to be that if you didn't like your government or you didn't like how things were being done, you could just pick up the stakes, go somewhere, start a new civilization, start something from scratch, and have it be a grand experiment. And without the frontier, it's very hard to do that. There's no wilderness anymore in the way that there used to be. So I hope that ultimately the solar system outside of Earth is going to provide that. But to really do that, we're going to have a lot more powerful rockets, and ultimately they're going to have to be nuclear. If you look at the math, unless we discover some sort of magic space drive, really the only technology that's going to give us the solar system in any practical sense are nuclear drives and probably fusion, if we can master it. Can the elves of Dueldenvarden ever go to space? I would say if they use their spells properly and have enough energy stored out, there's no reason they couldn't go to space. What are the odds Disney is going to do a show or remake of Aragon? I don't know the odds. I think that there's some interest there, and hopefully we'll have something to talk about in the next nearest future. We'll see. Ooh, Oh, good question. Someone's saying that since To Sleep in a Sea of Stars has been marketed as a standalone, how do I see this universe, the fractal verse, evolving past this book? Well, there's some things I can't really tell you because that would be spoiling, but I do have a sequel novella that I've already written. Knocked that out real fast. I'm currently working on a short prequel novel, both of which tie into To Sleep fairly closely. And then I have a lot of other projects within the Fractalverse that are fairly closely related to Sleep, and then not so closely related to Sleep. And when those will get written is just going to be a question of time and energy, as with most things. I'm starting to get near the bottom of this pile. I think I'll probably call it quits when I reach the bottom of this, since see, we're heading towards 11:30 here. And as I said, I do have an early morning event tomorrow. At least early for me. I'm not a super early riser. Sort of a middle of the morning riser. Let's see, some other questions here. Does dark military sci-fantasy sound like an appealing, marketable genre? Sure. In fact, I think there have been some books like that. Am I ever going to finish Aragon and Arya's story? You bet I am. Any idea of what the next set of short stories set in Alagasia are going to be? I actually have those all planned out, and I'm hoping to tackle those fairly soon. That'll be the next Tales from Alagasia. You really want to read To Sleep in a Sea of Stars? What age can someone read it? Well, it is an adult novel, but I'd say if you're 14, 15, you're going to have no problem reading this book. So it does have some adult content, but it's not gratuitous. It's more a bit of people using bad language in situations where bad language would be warranted. Let's see. Can I grab some more questions here? How do you avoid romance overtaking the main plot of your book if romance is not the main plot of your book or main point of your book? Well, experience. I'm not maybe the best writer to ask about romance. I do my best, but it's not really my specialty. As with any plot point, you just have to determine where your focus is and then gauge how many pages you're devoting to X, Y, Z. And then that tends to, and you can always adjust that in editing too. If something is chewing up 80 pages of your story and it really needs to be more like 25 pages or 50 pages, then, you just start cutting. Can I recommend some other fantasy books with dragons in it? Try A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. I enjoyed that recently. Hello from Poland. Are there any other characters aside from Chiara in To Sleep that I'll be exploring in future works? Yes, there are. Will Book 5 in Alagasia really have other protagonists as the other 4 books of the Inheritance Cycle? You'll see a lot of familiar characters in Book 5 and a couple of very interesting new characters. Let's see. Can you get a signed copy of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars? Yes, if you track down some of the pre-order links. Okay. The new book does take place in the real universe. It is a fictional future, but all of you who are watching this now and listening, you exist in the Fractalverse. Technically, so do I, if I really want to get meta. In fact, I might even make a couple jokes like that at some point. But yeah, no, the real world exists, real physics exists, all of history exists within the Fractalverse. And that was actually one of the challenges, was trying to figure out, how we go from the current day to the future that I wanted to write about. And of course, lots of authors have envisioned different futures, and there are a lot of different ways to do it. This is just one way, but it made sense to me. And one thing I definitely wanted to incorporate was a sense of weirdness, because I don't know if you guys have looked at the headlines recently, but they're weird, and they seem to be getting weirder. That was something that Philip K. Dick definitely captured about in his science fiction stories, was sort of the strangeness of reality. So although I like writing very mythical, epic stories, I do like a hint of weirdness in there, because it seems to me that's the way life is. And the older I get, the weirder it seems. What am I a fan of that people might not expect? I'm a big fan of the Ladies Detective Agency series, and I'm also a big fan of the Great British Bake Off. To such a point that I have not only seen the Great British Bake Off, I have also seen all of the Great Australian Bake Off, Irish Bake Off, South African Bake Off, and New Zealand Bake Off. And I have to say, of all of them, as much as I like the Great British Bake Off, I think the Great Australian Bake Off is even better. But that's just me. Someone here from Ferguson Books who sent me some book plates that I just signed recently. So thank you for signing those book plates. I'm glad I was able to sign them for you. You should be getting them shortly. I can't read every comment here, so forgive me for that. All right. Someone wants to read science fiction, but knowing someone's mom wants to read To Sleep, but doesn't tend to like science fiction books. Well, I made a real effort with To Sleep and A Sea of Stars to write it in a way so that people who are not super familiar with science fiction can pick it up and read it easily. A lot of the early reviews have remarked on the fact that for such a large book, it's very easy to read, pulls you through, and doesn't drown you in jargon. So maybe that will convince your mom to give it a shot. In Brissinger, I had Aragon bless 2 female characters in the Varden camp. What was their purpose? Well, they are the subjects of an entirely different story. And one of these days, I'm going to get around to writing it. It was actually a story semi-inspired by Great Expectations, believe it or not. Let's see, have I read the Age of Fire series by E.E. Knight? Alas, no, I have not. Do I watch anime or read manga? I've watched some anime. One Punch Man, Attack on Titan. I've read Death Note, a couple others. So, every once in a while I'll read something in the genre. Someone's saying they've been a big fan since 2005. Your son is a fan too. And today is your birthday. Well, happy birthday. I hope you have a wonderful time with friends and family. Why do I choose to write in third person? Great question. I think it's because it feels natural to me. And that actually goes for a lot of the reasons the fact that something feels good to me explains a lot of what I do in my writing techniques. These are the things that I naturally am inclined toward. So I've written in second person, I've written in first person, not usually anything that's been published, but third person is my preferred voice. Why? Well, omniscient is kind of hard to figure out with omniscient where you're going to put your focus. Omniscient actually takes a lot of discipline to pull off, because otherwise you have so many moving parts. It's so easy to just jump into one person's head or another person's head. Then there's limited third person, or rather just third person, where you stick to just one person, but you can then jump around to a lot of different people with appropriate breaks in the text. And I don't really do that either. I don't know. I think it's because third person has an element of the narrator to it. So even though, the cat's here again. Even though the main character is the one who's ostensibly sort of explaining everything to the reader, there still is the narrator saying this happened and that happened. First person has just never felt comfortable to me. Call it a psychological tick. It is what it is. It might also be because so many of the big epic books I read growing up were in third person or omniscient. I like it. And actually, there is a sort of a technique that is not really done these days that I kind of miss, which is something Ursula Le Guin did and Tolkien did to a degree and quite a few other people, and that's the storytelling voice. You know, where the author really sits you down and says, let me tell you the story. And the narrator is a character in the book as much as any of the characters. An example of this would be The Hobbit, for example. Tolkien is telling you the story. Stephen King does this in some of his books also, but it's not really something that people do too much these days, and I kind of miss it. You know, I kind of miss that feeling of someone really telling you a story. So maybe I will do a bit more of that in the future. I actually did a bit of that in The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm, specifically the last story, The Worm, which again is told to the reader, to the listener. What are my hobbies besides reading and writing? Playing video games when I can, spending time with my friends' family, signing giant piles of pages on the internet, lifting weights when I get the chance, woodworking, metalworking, that sort of thing. And I love art. I did a whole bunch of art for the new book, which you're going to get to see. And I actually have a lot more art that I'm going to be doing in the near future for the Fractalverse. Will I have a signing in San Diego in the near future? Well, all signings are going to be remote for the time being because of the current world situation. When that changes, I will definitely be going out and signing books and traveling and going to the conventions again. But until that happens, everything's going to be done remotely. So these pages I'm signing will get put into people's books, and people will get signed books. But I won't be doing it in person, unfortunately, this time. Tom Holland is Aragon. Might be a little old, actually, at this point. Let's see. Will I stream any games? Probably not. Favorite philosopher? Might have to think about that. Was that a joke? I'm not sure. What planet does the inheritance cycle take place on? No comment. Did the creatures in Alagasia evolve? Some of them. Do I have trouble copying other writers' style when reading something that I think is cool? I used to have that problem when I was younger. I'm a really good mimic of other people's writing styles. But I have been writing for so long, I very much have my own writing style, and I know what I'm trying to do with the prose. So, yeah, it's not really an issue anymore. And that just comes with time and experience. And I have signed this whole pile here. So I'm going to... I'm going to sign off here in just a second. I just want to give a big thank you to everyone who tuned in for this live signing, as well as the previous one and hopefully future ones. Thank you. I want to, again, say thank you for all of your awesome questions. And a big thank you for supporting the series, supporting the books, reading them. You know, I don't get to always answer every question online. You know, I get so many messages on Reddit. I get so many messages on Twitter and Instagram. You don't even want to know what my Reddit inbox looks like at the moment. It's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions going back. And it's wonderful. And so many of them are heartfelt and awesome comments, questions, and stories from readers like you. So I don't always have time to answer those in person. So let this be my way of saying thank you. I hope we do this again soon. I hope you enjoyed To Sleep in a Sea of Stars as much as I enjoyed writing it. And again, just a big thank you from me for reading the books and for staying with me for so many years and being part of this journey. So I'm not quite sure when we're going to do another live stream, probably relatively near future. I have all of the whole pile of pages here to sign, and then I have about 3,000 tip-in sheets of Aragon that I need to sign for Barnes & Noble in the next couple of days. And then I have about 1,000 book plates that I have to sign for the events in September for the different virtual events. So I will be doing more of these. If I can, I'll give you advance notice in the future so people can come in and say hi. But either way, we'll be posting these up and preserving the videos for people to watch in the future. So again, thank you. I hope all of you have a great morning, evening, or afternoon, depending where you are in the world. And we'll do this again soon.